Yo, it's a fairy. I've had some people ask about an A fletch, which is the short 4-fletch style with a flat back. Dr. Ed talks about it in the study a lot. There's a lot of advantages to shooting feathers. One is feathers are for flying because you don't see any birds with plastic veins on their wings. I'm going to show you how to make an A fletch. It's pretty simple and kind of redneck, but we like it that way. Stay tuned. Okay, so if you don't think that, there's a lot of people that accuse me of, talking out both sides of my mouth. I do one thing and don't do the other or whatever, and I'm not consistent about this feather thing. Well, grab this whole handful of arrows, feathers, A fletch, 2 inches long. This is my teaching arrow to freak people out and make them understand what a broadhead is. A broadhead is like having veins on the front of the arrow. I went ahead and fletched it with feathers just to piss everybody off who's in the normal crowd and tough guy stuff. I'm okay with you shooting veins, but there's just a couple of advantages of feathers I'm going to show you, and then I'm going to show you how to make an A fletch. And I've got some bare shaft arrows. I'm going to talk you kind of through the process if you roll your own arrows. But once again, this is a fixed blade broadhead. And most people don't understand that a fixed blade broadhead has drag, lift, technically, in the air until you show them that. And then you just see people's head go, wait a second. Most people's understanding of how vanes work is not correct aerodynamically, but they understand that they're kind of dragging back there and making some stuff steer around. And then if you put them on the front, that thing would never fly if you bare shaft noctune your arrows. Shh, don't tell anybody, but I have a video on that. The card looks like that. It's called The Process. You get a couple of different spines, get some bare shafts. Watch that video. The link will be in the description. And what I'm setting up for, I got invited to go shoot tack with a bunch of friends of mine from San Antonio and some of my subscribers, and I have meticulously shot through all my arrows, and they all are bare shaft noctuned. Once again, consistent with your strategy. Don't, when it works, do it. And I shot these 3 in on a video I just published. The card looks like this. The video will be in the description of how I noctuned these babies, but you can see the noctunes are all on there. And then there's one down the shaft, as I mentioned. I'm going to fletch these with 2-inch long AA feathers. And the easiest way to make them is to get 3-inch shields and cut them off with a pair of scissors. So I've got shields right here. Okay. It's a 3-inch long shield, and I just cut it off 2 inches long, and I'll show you how to do that. It's pretty precise. I wouldn't want you to freak out or anything, but they turn out looking like that. And then you just fletch them up. The first tip here, I cut these 4 together. So I tried to do individual ones, and they get a little wonky. Sometimes they get a little out of shape. So I grab 4 feathers, because I 4-fletch. I use a Bitzenberger, and there's about 87,227,000 videos on using a Bitzenberger. I'm not gonna do that. And what I do is I line the points up, and in a minute I'll turn the camera around. It's gonna get a little clunky. I've got a mark on my workbench that's 2 inches long, and I take a pair of scissors and I literally just cut them off flat. The key to doing it this way is, and you keep the stacks together. That way they're all some of them will be 2 and a 1/16. Easy, easy. Don't get too OCD on me. because it'll make you crazy. So I'm going to turn the camera around. I'm going to show you one of the things about feathers. It's awesome for forward of center, not to mention arrow flight. And then I'll show you how I cut them off. And then for you folks who have a fletching tool, you will completely understand how to do the fletching part. If you're new to fletching, I highly suggest getting a fletching tool and learning to do it and screwing it up. Get a Bitzenberger, right helical, go watch a couple of videos. People have done some very detailed work on that stuff, and roll your own, because you're gonna tear veins off and stuff. There's no reason to not fletch your own arrows. It's not that hard to do. So I'm gonna flip the camera around, do the clunky part, and then onward we'll go. There's one thing about the feather mass that's really cool. You can get free forward to center shooting feathers. Hang on. Okay, I shoot short vanes when I shoot vanes. These are Q2i Fusions. I like those guys. They seem to stick to the shafts better. For some reason, I'm not going to buy something that requires some stupid applicator pin. That is ridiculous. One 2.1 inch vane is 4.6 grains. So you're looking at roughly, what, 18 grains total on the back end of the arrow. If you're serious about lightening up your arrows and some awesome arrow flight and adding forward to center, how about 5 grains for the whole set of fletching? Again, that's 4. Ooh, 4.6. That's 1. 4 times 4 is 16, roughly 5, so that's 2 more. 18 grains. We'll double check it here. 4.4, woo! 5.2 grains for 4. 4.6 for 1. You want to lighten up your arrows and add forward to center and more aerodynamic stability? Take it into consideration. All right, I told you this was going to be some redneck, so first step's to get all of the feathers. There's 4 of them here in a stack, and the ends of the quill there are all lined up about the same length. They're rather imperfect because they're from nature, so a machine didn't make them, God made them, so they're close enough. And I set them down like that. This is a 2-inch mark right here to the end of this mat. That's my redneck measuring stick. And I grab them right there. Get a good sharp pair of scissors. Straight off. Boom. Now you have 4 cut off with the flat back for AA fletch right here. See if I can get the camera to focus. And like I said, keep this stack together. So I've got the other stack over there that I showed earlier, the ones that are on the scale, and those are all that length. So you're going to miss it by a 16th or a 32nd. So I just do it this way and make sure this stack stays together, and I'll set them on the bench just like that. And then when I start fletching, I know this set's there. So if I was cutting 3 at a time, I would set a stack here, I'd set a stack here, and whatever, over here somewhere. And I would know I'd pick up this stack and I'd fletch this stack, then grab another stack. And that's the trick there. Not much of a trick, pretty redneckery, but that line's 2 inches. That's how I do it. I just, putting it on a tape measure was annoying. Just take them, stack them, butt the quills up, cut them off. Pretty simple. All right, I got my 3 arrows here. They're bare shaft, nock-tuned. I put gray on there and black just so you could see it. You can run a black Sharpie on there, it'll run fine. And then I've got my 3 stacks of feathers. It didn't necessarily correspond with each arrow. There's no relevance to that. And I just have 3 arrows and 3 stacks, but you want the stacks of feathers cut off the same, and they match up a little better than doing them 1 by 1 by 1. So a little consistency out of somebody here who actually bare shafts, Noctunes, the whole set. All right, in closing, I want y'all to be the most lethal bow hunters, and I want you to build a projectile that is the most lethal penetrator in all situations. Should the animal duck, spin, roll, you pull it, mistakes are made, things blow off course, misjudge the range, don't hit what you intended to hit, which is just rib cage. I'm 100% for hitting the rib cage and whistling right through them. I'm just a realist, and I know there's more bones than just the rib cage in the lethal parts of the animal. So again, I'm going to tack, so I'm building the most stable projectile. Well, I do this for hunting and everything. It's the same process I use for all my hunting arrows. I'll show you. This is my wampum big boy arrow, 715 grains with the tough head 3-to-1. This is as street legal an Ashby arrow as I have, and this is what I hunt with when I'm serious. This is JB welded together. It is noctuned, bare shaft, okay? Secondary mark on the shaft here, so in case this rubs off, I know where the noctune is. Hand stropped, one piece, 3-to-1 head. This is an 11 factor arrow. 4 to center's pushing 27.5%. That's a borderline unicorn. The reason why it's not a 12 factor arrow is because it is parallel. It is not a tapered arrow, but 11's pretty good, and 715 grains, whistles through stuff like that ain't even there. It's really fun to shoot. All right, that's the old fairy. As noted earlier, I have a whole process on how to bare shaft. I showed a video on bare shafting the arrows I'm building for tack. So like I said, I do this for every arrow that I hunt with. It's a pain in the butt. It takes a ton of effort. To go through all 12 or 18 arrows in bare shaft. And if you do this, which I highly recommend, really makes your broadheads fly good. I would do 3 or 4 or 5 at a time. I'd shoot them bare shaft, mark them, etc., set it down. If I have, well, first of it's just the reps. If it takes, you got 5, let's say it takes 15 shots to get them to bare shaft, or 20. You're gonna get tired, and so if you go to the next set, you're gonna start getting erroneous readings because you're just not as clean as you were. By the way, 7 yards from the paper. It's a fine distance. And go through every one of them. And what I usually do is I build 4 or 5. Let's say I got a dozen. I'll bare shaft 4 or 5. I'll fletch them. And then I'll just shoot like normal when you're just practicing and whatever. You got perfect shafts. And then in that process, generally in the first 5 or 10 shots, I'll have 5 or 6 more, 3 or 4, whatever it is, and I'll bare shaft as my warm-up shot. So I'm as strong, theoretically my form's as good as it's gonna be. I don't have 40 shots in where you might get a little wiggly, and bare shafts will expose that weakness very clearly. But if you do bare shaft and noctune all of your arrows, 3D, etc. I don't care about 3D, but I'm doing it because I know that makes my arrow flight that much better. When you're shooting 80 yards, well, on animals, of course you want perfect arrow flight, but shooting 80 yards, you really want your launch conditions right at the bow. One of my friends used to run around with, he always said, the minute it leaves the string, your fate is doomed. That launch needs to be as clean as possible. If your arrow's having to recover on the way down range, and you say, well, about 35, it does pretty good. Wow, that's scary. All right, subscribe if you want to. If you don't, that's fine. My goal always, and I said this before, is to make you lethal while hunting, and also accurate if you want to shoot 3D. It's a great sport. It's just not my jam, but I want you to build the most robust arrow system with perfect arrow flight, hand-stropped broadheads that will pop hair right off your arm, shave your face to make you lethal, so that when you actually hit something, it doesn't run anywhere. It just runs 40 yards and falls over. Way easier. All right, see you later.